For discussion, gentleman from Polk.
To inquire of the amendment maker, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from St. Charles yield.
Yes.
Proceed.
Gentlemen, you'll have to forgive me, sir. I am very, very old, and I'm very, very feeble-minded.
I don't believe either of those things, gentlemen.
Well, that's an unfortunate truth that I'm having to deal with. But if you could very briefly enlighten me, and I don't know, I've checked around and precisely in the quickest, simplest terms, what items this affects and how it affects it. I apologize for being lost in the conversation.
Not a problem, gentlemen. I think this is a good opportunity to go over where we are.
Thank you.
So this bill has a number of key provisions that will remain after this amendment.
And those provisions do what?
The first is it lengthens the time of appeal that an individual has to appeal their property taxes if they feel that their assessment is unfair. And so it makes sure that everybody has at least 3 to 4 weeks to make that appeal, because there was a problem that some counties...
Is this some reflection of what happened in Jackson County?
This is certainly a result of the special committee on taxation that we held over the summer.
Yes, sir.
That elucidated some of these issues.
Very good.
And so we're going to have a reasonable time of appeal for all property tax assessments everywhere in this state. That's one provision.
Thank you.
There's another provision that shifts the burden of proof to the government at any time that the property tax assessment is greater than 15% than the year prior after you disregard any sort of new construction.
And that is different from the current situation?
That is very different from the current situation.
Okay.
Right now, the burden is on the taxpayer to prove that the government was wrong.
Yes.
When we have these really high tax assessments, I believe that it is fair to put the burden on the government.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next provision is if you have a similar tax assessment that is 15% greater than the year previous, it will guarantee that the taxpayer has the right to a physical inspection of their premises by the state,
and
by
not
the
Google
government.
Maps.
Not Google Maps or satellites or anything like that. Someone would have to physically come to the home to justify their tax assessment. So those are the tax assessment provisions that are included in this bill. There's also the protection for 9/11 first responders from the lady from Buchanan that we discussed earlier.
Yes.
There's the taxation of partnerships provision, and then there is the provision that I consider probably the best part of this bill, which is to protect everyone's stimulus payments from Missouri income tax. That's $50 to every constituent in your district that received a stimulus payment.
And the First Amendment, or part of the amendment, stripping many of the other provisions you felt were obstacles to for this important measure to move forward.
Yes, gentlemen, I mean, we've seen a lot of bills lately, and they get really big and really complicated. I wanted to keep this bill as narrowly tailored as possible, find a number of issues that shared broad consensus across the body in both chambers, something that I think that we can get truly agreed to and finally passed here in the next few days, and we can all go home and talk to our constituents about how we passed a bill to protect their stimulus check, to protect their property tax assessments, to protect 9/11 first responders, and to cut some red tape.
Without clutter.
Without clutter.
It sounds very reasonable, and I think the cloud has lifted.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, for the opportunity.